Okay, so if you're a university entrepreneur, you know this feeling, right? You've got this brilliant idea, but the path from that spark to your very first paying customer, it's confusing. Well, in this explainer, we're going to give you a super practical roadmap to get from that idea to your first sale. Let's dive in. But first, let's talk about the elephant in the room. I mean, with so much talent and so many amazing ideas floating around campus, why do most student ventures just fizzle out? It almost always comes down to one single fatal mistake. You've seen this story play out a million times. A team spends a whole semester building this really slick app, totally convinced it's the next big day. They hit the launch button, and nothing. The App Store is basically a graveyard for cool ideas that were built on what the founders thought people wanted, not what they actually needed. Or hey, maybe it's a physical product. You've designed the perfect hoodie, you've sourced all the materials, you built this beautiful online store. You post it on social media, ready for the orders to just flood in, and crickets? You built a product, but you completely forgot to build an audience for it. And look, this isn't just about apps and hoodies. It could be anything. You could be a great consultant, a talented designer, or a private tutor. Launching your service to an empty calendar points to the exact same problem. You built something without knowing exactly who it's for, and more importantly, how you're supposed to reach them. So today, we're going to fix that. We'll start with the big picture, the entrepreneur's journey. Then we're going to dive deep into understanding your customer, figuring out how to find them, and of course, how you actually make money. We'll wrap it all up with a really concrete 90-day plan and a clear call to action you can start on like this week. All right, first up, let's zoom out for a second. Building a startup isn't just some chaotic sprint to the finish line. No, it's a journey, and it has very distinct stages. Knowing this roadmap helps you focus on the right thing at the right time so you don't waste a ton of precious energy. Think of it like this, in these 5 stages. You start with the idea, obviously, but then you move to validation. Now notice you're not building anything yet. You're just talking to people to confirm that the problem you think exists is real and actually painful. Only then do you build an MVP, the minimum viable product to solve that one core problem. After that, you launch, and finally, you can focus on growth. The most critical part here, don't even think about scaling before you validate. Now let's zoom in on what is easily the most important part of that journey, your customer. You want to know the fastest way to fail? It's to say your product is for everyone. That's not a business plan. That's a blueprint for building something for absolutely no one. You have to get surgically precise about who you are here to serve. To do that, you need a bit of a mental shift, and this quote right here just captures it perfectly. You've got to stop focusing on what your product is and start focusing on what it does for your customer. They're not just buying your software, they are hiring your tool to make some kind of progress in their own life. This whole idea is called the Jobs to be Done framework, and what it does is it pushes you past simple stuff like demographics to really understand the customer's true goal. For example, people didn't hire Slack just to get another messaging app. No way. They hired it to do a job, to reduce the chaos of their internal email and to feel more connected to their team. That's the progress they were actually buying. And here is a super simple but powerful tool you can use right now to figure out that job. This template breaks the customer's need down into 3 parts: the situation they're in, what they want to do, and the outcome they're hoping for. Just filling this out will give you a crystal clear mission. Just look at how this example brings it all to life. The situation, when I'm working from home. The motivation, I want to use a noise-canceling app. But the expected outcome, the real job to be done, is so I can look professional on calls. See? You're not selling AI code, you're selling professional credibility. That is what the customer is actually buying. Okay, so now that you know your customer's job to be done, the next question is pretty obvious, right? Where are these people, and how on earth do you find them? Let's talk about the strategy for turning those initial crickets into actual conversations. First, you gotta understand the path a total stranger takes to become a customer. It all starts with awareness. They have to even know you exist. Then comes interest, where they start to engage with your solution. Next up is the decision to actually buy. And finally, if you deliver on your promise, they become advocates and send you referrals. All your marketing and sales efforts are just about guiding people along this journey. So how do you find people to guide through that funnel? Well, we're going to break it down into two simple phases. Phase one is all about grabbing the low-hanging fruit, the easiest, fastest wins to get that initial feedback. Then, phase two is about systematically finding people who are already out there actively searching for a solution just like yours. So in phase one, you start where trust already exists, your inner circle. Your classmates, your friends, former colleagues, they are your best first audience for feedback. Period. Ask your professors and mentors for warm introductions to people in their network, and the second you have even one happy customer, ask them, hey, who else do you know that might have the same problem? This is how you build momentum from zero. Now, once you have a little bit of traction, it's time for phase two, finding those high-intent customers. If you're building a B2B product, being active on LinkedIn as the founder is pretty much non-negotiable. For a consumer product or a SaaS tool, creating content like best alternatives to X can capture people right at that moment of decision. And running some targeted ads focused on specific pain point keywords can be incredibly effective for reaching people who are actively trying to buy a solution. Finding interested people is a huge step, but how does this become a real business? That brings us to the mechanics, how you actually deliver your solution, and most importantly, how you get paid for the value you're creating. First off, how do you sell? Well, with direct sales, you or a salesperson are talking directly with the customer. This is absolutely essential for high-priced or complicated products like enterprise software. The other option is self-serve, where a customer can just sign up and pay on your website without talking to anyone. This is the model for things like Spotify or Netflix, simpler, lower-cost products that can scale really quickly. And how do you actually charge people? This table shows the four most common models out there. You can have a simple one-time sale, like buying an app from the App Store. There's the recurring subscription, which is really the heart of the whole software as a service economy. You could have a commission model, where you take a small cut of transactions, kind of like Airbnb. Or you could go freemium, where you offer a basic version for free to get a ton of users, hoping some of them will upgrade for the paid features. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. But look, theory is great, but execution is what really matters. So let's pull all of this together into a concrete, no excuses action plan for your next 90 days. This is all about focus and building momentum. Here is your mission. For the next 3 months, this checklist is your entire world. Your goal is not to build the perfect product. It's not to become profitable. Your goal is to learn. Have real in-depth conversations with 20 people who fit your ideal customer profile. Actively test 2 of the marketing channels we just talked about, and aim to convince 3 to 5 of those people to become your very first paying customers. That's it. That's the game. A 90-day plan is a great goal, but real momentum starts today. The only way to achieve a big goal is to break it down into something you can do right now. So let's define what you are going to get done this week. It all comes down to taking action. So this week, your task is 3 things. First, go back and refine that job to be done statement until it is razor sharp and super specific. Second, pick just 1 or 2 of those acquisition channels and run a small, simple test. And third, bring that plan to your next mentoring session to get some feedback. The journey from idea to first customer starts with a single deliberate step. What will yours be?